As desertification, land degradation, and the complete collapse of functioning ecosystems intensifies across the planet, humanity can no longer ignore the elephant in the room, which is living soil ecology and its implications to humanity. Outside of the oceans, the destruction of soil ecology, the life beneath our feet, through practices such as habitat destruction and industrial agriculture, is at the root of nearly every issue we face ecologically, including climate change. Now, this is a bold claim, but I'm going to show you why soil and our climate are intrinsically linked, and why we cannot solve the climate crisis before we solve the soil crisis. Environmental priorities have shifted dramatically since the birth of the movement in the 1930s. And these environmental organizations, and as well as governments, they take on a plethora of environmental issues over the years. But they seem to only take on one or two issues at a time. In recent years, nearly all of that focus has been centered around one sole issue: climate change. We've all seen images like this and concluded that we need to fix the issue to save the planet. However, climate change in itself is only a symptom of a much greater issue: the death of our planet's living systems. And this issue will affect us in many more ways than climate change, for if we collapse the Earth's ecosystems, we'll lose all of the ecosystem services they provide. Earth is a living planet, and at its core, that means that living organisms, in the form of everything from trees to microbes, perform all of the ecosystem services our species depends on for survival. This includes vital tasks such as water storage, nutrient cycling, organic matter formation, and yes, even rain. Without ecosystems full of life, these services start to disappear. And we see these effects in the form of increased droughts, reduced nutrient cycling, the loss of species, widespread anoxia, and so much more. And due to these effects, soils have actually lost 50 to 70% of the carbon they once held. Add to this the fossil fuels we're burning, and you can see why this is a big issue. Despite the dire consequences to this diminishment of life in soil, most people are oblivious to its occurrence, cause, and resulting impact. Even when it comes to our scientific understanding of the world, life is rarely factored in. Instead, the systems of Earth are generally all described as just being due to abiotic factors, such as weathering and solar distribution. While it is true that these are important factors of how our planet functions, they are not the only part of the story. Soil is arguably the most important thing to our species. It's where we live on, where our food is grown, where our fresh water is collected, and it's even the source of much of the air we breathe. And perhaps most importantly, soil is one of Earth's greatest carbon sinks. In this light, soil is everything to our species. Earth's soils develop in layers, and each layer holds living organisms. And those layers trap much of the carbon that those organisms hold. This builds up over millions of years to create the soils we see today. And those deep within the Earth, plant, animal, fungi, and microbes of all sorts live on and within these layers, regulating our planet's climate by actively recycling and trapping millions of years worth of carbon. When we dig up these layers built by millions of years worth of organisms in the ancient past, we call it coal or oil. And it's these same living systems that stored this coal and oil millions of years ago that still form this underground web of life beneath our feet today. So now you understand that living soil is, well, alive and filled to the brim with billions of organisms, most smaller than your cells and many larger than you. They function on land like how fish and plankton function in the sea, and without them, we are left with a dead planet. Yet it seems that nearly everything we do as a species destroys this complex web of life that ties our Earth together. We level entire ecosystems with bulldozers that destroy everything in the soil layers. We then dig up all the trapped carbon that life had laid down for millions of years, and we burn it. We then often develop on this land, or more likely farm on it, which pretty much destroys the Earth's soil by tilling it, and wipes out the complex networks. And then we spray millions of gallons of herbicides, fungicides, and pesticides across millions of acres of land, which pretty much kills every last organism that was able to survive anything else. To put this in perspective, in 2009, according to the NIH, over 1 billion pounds of pesticides were used in the United States each year, and approximately 5.6 billion pounds were used worldwide. The quantity has only increased ever since those numbers were recorded over a decade ago. By burning fossil fuels, we have opened Pandora's box with regard to our climate, and by clearing land, tilling, and spraying chemicals, we are systematically destroying the very thing that can trap it back within the earth. No wonder we have a climate crisis on our hands.